Okay, so these strange looking frozen cubes are my secret to lightning quick yet actually delicious weeknight meals. I call them flavor bombs, and the idea behind it is simple but incredibly powerful. Cook up a big batch of aromatics and spices, freeze it in individual portions, and then you can use that as the base for so many different meals in the future. Dinners that would ordinarily take an hour are now ready in about 20 minutes, and they taste as good as anything you'd get at a restaurant. In today's video, I'm going to show you 3 different versions of these flavor bombs: Indian, Italian, and Mexican, and then show you how you can turn them into fast, flavorful dinners even on your busiest nights. We're starting with our Indian flavor bomb, which is essentially an all-purpose masala base. It's a blend of aromatics and spices, and as I'll show you in a bit, when you have this in your freezer, you'll be able to whip up so many different, quick yet flavorful Indian meals, even on a weeknight. For the aromatics, start by dicing 2 large yellow onions, and then chop up a whole lot of garlic. This is gonna add so much flavor to our base. Grab a spoon and peel 2 inches of ginger, or, do the best you can, and then finally chop it up. By the way, if you want to save time on all of the chopping, stay tuned because I will be sharing my go-to shortcut method in just a bit. And I'm using 2 serrano peppers today, but you can always use 1 for a milder heat or even a jalapeno pepper instead. With the prep work out of the way, it is time to cook our flavor base. Add 2 tablespoons of any neutral flavored oil to a large frying pan or saute pan over medium-high, and once that's hot, go ahead and cook the onions until they're nicely golden brown. You don't need to stir the onions too often, so we can use this time to make our spice blend. We've got curry powder, coriander, cinnamon, turmeric, freshly grated nutmeg, salt and pepper, and just a touch of sugar for balance. The onions are still cooking, so let's work on our tomatoes in the meantime. I like to crush whole peeled tomatoes with my hands because they have a better pure tomato flavor and better texture than diced tomatoes. When you start to see this fond on the bottom of the pan, add a splash of water, and that's going to help the onions brown evenly without burning. Our onions are looking good now, so it's time to add the garlic, ginger, and serrano peppers, plus 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, and you want to really coat the tomato paste into the onions and cook everything for 2 to 3 minutes. And now it's time for our spice blend. And what we're doing right now is we're blooming the spices. When you toast spices in a fat source, like we have the oil in the pan, it really brings out their flavors because spices are fat soluble. So it's gonna make the spices taste even more delicious. If the spices start to stick, just deglaze with a splash of water and then add in the crushed tomatoes and cook these for 4 to 5 minutes using the tomato juices to deglaze any brown bits on the bottom of the pot. When this is done, you're gonna have a rich aromatic base that will make enough for 2 different recipes that serve 4 each, or 4 different recipes that serve 2 each. And it might taste a little bit concentrated right now, but it will mellow out perfectly when you use it in one of the dishes. Now for that chopping shortcut I mentioned, instead of dicing the aromatics by hand, just very roughly chop them and then add them to a food processor along with the tomato paste. And just pulse everything a few times until it's minced but not pureed. Saute this mixture all at once for about 10 minutes or until it's softened and the moisture has cooked off. Since there's more water content in this version, the onions won't really brown, so the base won't be quite as flavorful, but it does save time, so I leave that trade-off up to you. Whether you're dicing by hand or using the food processor shortcut, you'll want to let the flavor bomb cool to room temperature and then divide it into 2 equal portions or 4 equal portions. You can use any freezer-safe container or tray to freeze your base, but I like to use these super cubes, which are these silicone trays. They come with a lid, and the flavor bombs fit perfectly in either of these 2 molds. Once the base is completely frozen, you can pop it out of the super cube and transfer it to a freezer bag or reusable bag and label it. That way you just save some space in your freezer, and the flavor bombs will stay good in your freezer for about 3 months. Now that you know how to make this Indian flavor bomb, I'm going to show you exactly how you can use it to get delicious home-cooked Indian dinners on the table in about 20 minutes. I'll also be sharing flavor bombs and recipes for Italian and Mexican food if that's more your thing. But before we continue talking about flavor bombs, I want to take a minute to talk about Bombas, aka the maker of my favorite ever socks and the sponsor of today's video. Not only does Bombas make the most comfortable socks ever, they also donate an item of clothing to someone in need for every single item purchased. They have donated over 150 million items of clothing, which is just staggering in the best way possible. Personally, I wear the ankle socks every single day, if you couldn't tell from my sock drawer, but Bombas also makes other clothing essentials, including my favorite ever slippers. These Sherpa-lined booty slippers. I actually gave my mom a pair last Christmas, and let's just say she is equally obsessed with them.
They are the most comfortable slippers I've ever seen. I even sleep with it. Bombas, but it's very good.
Oh, and 2 bonuses. Bombas has a happiness guarantee, so if you don't love the socks for any reason, they will give you free exchanges and returns. And they also ship internationally now to over 200 countries. If you want to try out my favorite socks ever, go to bombas.com/Nisha. New customers will get 20% off their first order. Just use the code Nisha at checkout. Now that you know the basics behind making a flavor bomb, I want to walk you through how you can use them to make really quick, delicious weeknight meals. By the way, stay tuned until the end of the video because I will be sharing how you can get every single recipe in today's video in a printable format. One of my go-to weeknight meals right now is masala chickpeas and spinach. It's got great flavor, it's high in protein and fiber, and it takes about 20 minutes to make. I like to start off everything by cooking the rice, and I've got basmati rice, which I'm making in my Instant Pot, but you can use any rice you like and any cooking method you prefer. While that's going, drain and rinse 2 cans of chickpeas and pat them dry very well with a dish towel to remove as much moisture as you can. Heat up a bit of oil in a large nonstick frying pan over medium-high heat. Once that's shimmering, you can go ahead and add the chickpeas as best as you can, spread them out, and season with a bit of salt. Ta-da! You want to cook these undisturbed for 3 to 4 minutes so they can start to get some color. And you'll just repeat that process, stirring fairly infrequently until they're nicely golden brown. Since the chickpeas don't need to be stirred too often, we can use this time to chop up an entire bag of baby spinach. Once the chickpeas are done, transfer them to a bowl and return the pan to medium heat with just a drizzle of oil. I like to start this dish off by blooming some black mustard seeds, followed by cumin seeds, but if you don't have these whole spices, I've included substitutes in the ebook I've created to accompany this video. Add the baby spinach and toss it with the spices. It should wilt down pretty quickly. And now you can add in your Indian flavor bomb. For this recipe, you do want to defrost it by placing it in your fridge the day before. After a couple minutes, the flavor bomb should be warmed through, so you can add back the chickpeas and toss until everything is nicely incorporated. Now, a few final ingredients. You can consider these optional flavor boosters. I like to crush some fenugreek leaves right into the pan, which releases their aroma, and a teaspoon of garam masala. Squeeze in some lemon juice and garnish with some chopped cilantro when you're ready to serve. That is so flavorful. It's got the perfect amount of heat, it's hearty, and it came together in like 20 minutes thanks to our Indian flavor bomb. It's just the perfect weeknight dinner. Another dish I love to make with this Indian flavor bomb is butter chickpeas. You're just gonna blend the Indian flavor bomb with some raw cashews, water, and nutritional yeast until you get this creamy gravy sauce. And then you'll toast a few spices in your frying pan for just a few seconds, add in your canned chickpeas, and simmer everything in the sauce for 10 minutes. And trust me, you're gonna wanna serve this one with some flatbread. It is so luxurious and just so freaking good. Now, this flavor bomb method works particularly well with Indian food because it can be a little bit labor intensive sometimes, but it also works so well with lots of other cuisines. For instance, if you wanted to make an Italian flavor bomb, you'd use the same exact cooking technique, but with a few ingredient swaps. Instead of ginger, serrano peppers, and spices, we'll use fresh sage and rosemary, dried oregano, red pepper flakes for a little heat, plus dry white wine, and I like to finish with bay leaves and nutritional yeast. And when I have an Italian flavor bomb in my freezer, I have a few really simple meals I like to keep on rotation. One of my favorites is the Italian pasta and chickpeas dish, also known as pasta e cece. It's as simple as warming up the Italian base in a large, deep sauté pan. If your base is already defrosted, that should take just 2 to 3 minutes. And then add everything else to the pan. Dried pasta, canned chickpeas, vegetable broth, lots of black pepper, and just a touch of salt. Cover the pan and simmer until the pasta is nearly al dente, stirring occasionally, and then take off the heat and cover for 10 minutes. Finish with a bit of red wine vinegar, some good quality extra virgin olive oil, fresh basil, and a little flaky sea salt. It is so cozy, it's like a hug in a bowl, and it was like 5 minutes of active work, so that's pretty good pretty good. So that is a very good effort to reward ratio in my book. Another option you can make with this Italian base is a Tuscan-inspired saucy white bean stew with kale. It takes less than 15 minutes to throw together if your base is defrosted. If it's not defrosted, no worries. Just add the frozen flavor bomb to a saucepan, cover it, and cook over medium-low heat, stirring every 5 minutes to break up any frozen bits until it's fully defrosted. From there, add in some cannellini beans, thinly sliced kale, salt, and pepper, and that's pretty much it. Simmer for 10 minutes, and this part is not optional. Garnish with fresh basil, drizzle with good quality olive oil, and scoop up with some crusty bread. Or you can use the Italian flavor bomb as a pasta sauce. I like pairing it with rigatoni and some cooked vegan sausage with spinach. This one is so easy, you could make it in your sleep. Moving on to our Mexican flavor bomb. Instead of the yellow onions, we'll use white onions. We'll add in a jalapeno for a little kick, some dried Mexican oregano, ground cumin, and coriander, and for that deep, smoky, spicy flavor, some chipotle peppers in adobo. The easiest thing you can do with this one is to warm it up in a pan and then pour in some canned black beans or pinto beans and let them simmer with the base until they're rich and saucy and your kitchen smells amazing. You can serve them over rice or quinoa, pair it with guacamole and pickled onions for tacos, put them in burritos. There are so many different options. But today I'm going to show you how to use the Mexican flavor bomb with one of my favorite dishes, saucy tofu with greens. Definitely not a traditional Mexican dish, but it has some really lovely Mexican flavors. I'm gonna start by cooking some brown rice in my Instant Pot just because that takes a little bit of time to get going. And then I'm gonna slice a block of extra firm tofu into 4 slabs and then press those with a heavy cookbook, perhaps this cookbook, for just 10 minutes to remove some extra moisture. From there, slice the tofu slabs in half and then into 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch cubes. Toss the tofu with a little bit of olive oil plus salt and pepper, and then add in your potato starch, which is going to help give the tofu a nice crisp exterior. Spread it out on a lined sheet pan and bake at 425 Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Give it a flip, and then another 10 to 15 minutes in the oven, depending on the size of your tofu pieces. When the tofu is almost done, we'll heat up the Mexican flavor bomb in a frying pan just for a few minutes until it's warm. Then add in the baked tofu and toss it until it's nicely coated. And for some greens action, I've got a few handfuls of baby kale. Give that 2 minutes or so until it's wilted. You can take it off the heat and just finish with lime juice and some chopped cilantro. Serve over rice with a dollop of sour cream and a little extra cilantro if you love it like I do. This was another great example of how easy weeknights can be with the flavor bombs because this was so little active work and it is so freaking delicious. If you want to try out the flavor bombs for yourself and see how they can transform your weeknight cooking, I've put together an ebook that has all 3 flavor bombs plus different recipes you can use them in. I've linked that in the description box below the video, or you can scan this QR code. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!